Have you ever outlined your story and then sort of felt completely disconnected to it afterwards? That's sort of where I'm at right now with my writing. I still love the idea. It still matters to me. It still has a connection to me. When I look it over, I get excited for a moment about it. But somehow I'm always discouraged to write. It feels like the spark is gone. But I know that's not entirely true. What I'm working on right now is basically going to be draft 0. So I already have the story outlined, so I know what happens in the most key points. But what I need to do right now is write draft 0. I can't help but to feel the need to compare my non-existent draft 0, that really only exists up here for right now, to someone else's completed published work. And it makes me feel a bit like an imposter. Like what I have to say is not important enough, not good enough, that what I would write couldn't measure up to that, and therefore is not worth writing at all. But that's not true, and I know that, but it's hard not to compare yourself to someone else's published work. The thing is though, in pretty much all cases, we don't know exactly what went into it. How many iterations of that story did the author do? Did the author end up rewriting the entire thing, writing an entire book, then rewriting the entire thing? Did they end up just making some minor edits? Did they end up overhauling entire acts? Did it take them months or even years to write and to polish and to finalize before the book that we can buy in the store or online is in front of us? Why am I comparing my draft 0 that's only meant for my eyes to someone else's completed works? It doesn't make sense now, does it? Because the way I define it, for me, draft 0 is my way of getting the story out. It's not meant for anyone else to see. My plan is, once I have that written out, to see basically where I stand. How many words do I have? What does it look like? Did I skip a lot of scenes or dialogue? And then I will go back and flesh out things that need to be fleshed out, or cut things if they need to be cut out. That will be draft 1. That's the draft that I would then show people and be like, hey, can you please read this and let me know what you think? Draft 0 has never and will never be meant for anyone else's eyes except for my own. So why am I stuck comparing myself to someone else's published work that probably took months, if not years, to complete in the iteration that I am now reading? I don't have an answer. I'm sure I'm not the only one struggling with that. And even if you're not a writer, I think at some point, all of us feel sort of like imposters in our lives. In particular for me, with dreams and things that I want to accomplish. But you can feel like an imposter in any part of your life, to be honest. Now I'm still working out how to actually get out of this rut. Ultimately, I know that I just need to write. But that's easier said than done. It's really hard for me. I find every excuse under the sun to not write. And if I do start writing, it's like, no, this sucks. I hate it. I don't want to. I can't do it. And then I stop. And the thing is, I know I just need to not stop. I just need to get it out. It doesn't matter what it looks like. But it's like there's a little block in my head that's, if it's not perfect the first time, why bother doing it? And that's a bit of my perfectionism kind of showing, and I know better than that. But it's not so simple to just know better when it comes to actually doing things. So, one of the things that I'm going to try is to write a scene out of order. I tend to be a very A, B, C, D, first comes this, then comes that when it comes to writing. But for this, I want to start with just a simple and short scene. Doesn't have to be good or anything like that, but just something quick and easy, something that comes to mind when I think of the story. Whether or not it ends up in the, final iteration doesn't matter. The point of it is to sort of get the juices flowing. Like, hey, I wrote this little thing. It's not half bad. Okay, maybe I can do the next scene. Oh, hey, this didn't totally suck, so let me just keep going. That kind of a thing. Sort of creating a snowball effect. Another thing would be to try to reconnect to the core of the story. The thing is, when we write, Whether we like it or not, some bits of ourselves are going to be in the story. Maybe there are things that we like about ourselves, or things that we don't like, or things that we're dealing with. But the point being, the emotional core of the story that you connect to as the writer is sort of the same connective core that the reader will also connect to. So if I'm afraid to face that feeling and to confront whatever that part is for me, then that will create a block and I can't keep going. And I have a feeling, based on what my story is and what sort of inspired the idea of it to begin with, or part of it at least, is that sort of a block. You know, facing it head on is hard, and putting your head in the sand is much easier. But in order to connect to the story and write the best story that I can, I have to face it head on and be honest in acknowledging that that is the core of the story, because it's going to be there whether I like it or not. And then hopefully readers would connect to it as well. And just because you feel like an imposter, it doesn't mean you actually are one. It just means that you care. And that's a sentiment that I want to remind myself of, along with the fact that, you know what, my draft 0 is not going to be perfect. In fact, it might be really, really crappy, but it is the first step to something that could be really great. And if I'm afraid to take it, I will never know what's on the other side. I will never know how good I can make a story, how much I can learn, if I'm too scared to take the first step. And I cannot compare my first step with someone else's 100th step. So, in what ways have you felt like an imposter recently in your life? Is it with your writing? Is it with something else that you're passionate about? Share it in the comments below. Let's have a discussion, and I hope to see you again in another one soon. Bye for now.